Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga. I had no idea how to start this video at all. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. You know, like a volume, like a CD. And then this movie series has a big thing with music, so I mean, it really fits. Look at this. Look at this crap I got last night. It's a big old thing to hold popcorn, isn't that awesome? For all the times I'll be at home cooking popcorn, and I wanted to put it in plastic piece of, yeah, So Guardians of the Galaxy, the original film, it's honestly my favorite, probably favorite Marvel film ever made. I don't know, it's pretty close to Spider-Man 2. It's a big sort of, you know, I could debate which one's better or which one's not better. We had to wait 3 years before we saw anything with these characters again. They didn't show up in Avengers Age of Ultron, they didn't show up in, you know, Captain America Civil War. So now finally they're back, and I have to say, it was one hell of a good time. Oh, and by the way, there's gonna be a little bit of spoilers in this video, so just kind of watch out for that, but nothing too insane. Don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil, you know, the great big reveal that Peter Quill dies. Really though, the movie opens with, what do you know, Baby Groot dancing to Electric Light Orchestra. Honestly, my favorite band of all time. So right away, love this movie. It was like, yep, that's an A. 10 out of 10. Perfect movie. Amazing. We have seen action sequence after action sequence after action sequence in films before. When it involves fighting a giant monster, we've seen it many times. So what does this movie do different? Well, we don't really focus on the action, we just focus on Baby Groot running through the action in one beautiful long shot. Obviously it was done on the computer, but you know, it still works really well. It looks amazing. It's a funny way to open, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. This is exactly what you would expect from a Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. After rewatching the first film, I just rewatched it the other day, I have to say, I never quite realized that this movie, I always loved all the characters, but this is one of those rare movies where it has a giant ensemble cast of 5 characters, and all of them I really like. That's really hard to find. Usually there's always at least one character in a movie that nobody can really get to like, or there's no attachment to them, there's not enough development, but this movie, the first one, really had all the characters down. They were all interesting, they were all likable, they were all wonderful, unique personalities, and you know, the sequel continues that, and everybody is back, everybody does exactly what you would think they would do, they expand on the characters more, everybody gets expanded upon. The only one that doesn't really get expanded upon, I mean, besides Baby Groot, but, you know, Groot, he's kind of there just to be, you know, lovable and sort of, you know, a joke anyway, so I feel like you don't have to do much more with his character. I think he gets kind of a break. But Drax doesn't really have any development in this movie, but he's still awesome. And he's way funnier. I mean, he was funny in the first one. In this movie, it's brought to the extreme, and I loved every single scene that he was in. I loved all the characters. I loved Gamora. I loved Star-Lord. And that's the main focus of this movie, is Star-Lord meeting his father. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything when I say Kurt Russell's his father. I think most people saw that trailer. And even if you saw that trailer, the beginning of the movie reveals it right away. So you know right away, okay, this is Chris Pratt's, this is Star-Lord's father. So a lot of sci-fi movies nowadays, they really keep dim with the colors. Like, there's a lot more grays and blacks and just darker colors rather than trying to actually do something. You know, like, say for instance, I didn't see really one movie that takes place in space ever use the color purple or green or yellow all in the same movie. But when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I saw all of them. And this movie does that again. It's even more colorful than the last one. It's just a beautiful movie. This movie, on my honest opinion, is better shot than the first one. I still think the first one's a little bit better in general, but one thing that the second one has over the first one is just the overall aesthetic look. It just looks like a better movie. And the villain is way better. I'm not going to reveal who the villain is, but the villain is amazing. Just straight up amazing. And probably the best villain you're going to get out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know, unless Thanos ends up playing out really well in Infinity War. For now, yeah, this has the best villain. Maybe not better than Loki, but pretty awesome. The movie was paced really well for the first half. I really liked how everything was going. It was sort of like, you get sort of that Star Wars Pirates of the Caribbean vibe where, you know, there's story, but then there's always just all these other random consequences and backstabbing going on because all the characters are doing their own thing and they all are kind of playing their own game. And when that happens, all these storylines kind of collide into each other and a lot of different stuff's going on. In fact, this basically does the Empire Strikes Back thing where they split the story into two. And, you know, it's paced really well for the beginning, but then you start hitting that second part and one of the storylines is really going nowhere. And sadly, it's the one with Star-Lord and his father. Now, don't get me wrong, every single scene with Star-Lord and his father is really interesting. I'm just saying that everything that's happening in that storyline, because there's other characters that are part of that storyline, everything that doesn't involve Star-Lord and his father isn't really developed that well. It kind of begins to drag on because you start to assume what's going to happen. Everybody assumes it to a point where I was kind of hoping what I was assuming would be wrong, but, you know, I was right. Everybody was right. We all knew what was going to happen. But it drags it on and on for about 30 minutes, and I mean, we all kind of know what's gonna happen. It's still interesting, but it's just the fact that they have to have those three other characters. You have Mantis, you have Drax, and you have Gamora also on that planet. And then Nebula shows up also, and they all just kind of do nothing. I mean, they're enjoyable, they're definitely funny, and there's some great scenes that come out of them, but I'm just wondering, for watching the movie later and just for the overall story, how effective was that really to have four other characters not really advance the plot? This movie has, to me, solidified that Nebula should get the final blow to Thanos when Infinity War comes around. If, you know, if he ends up dying in that movie, I'm just assuming he will, I think Nebula should be the one to do like the final punch. That would be awesome. The storyline that's way more interesting is actually the one that involves Rocket and Yondu, and honestly, besides this movie being really, you know, Peter Quill's movie, it's really Yondu's movie. Really, it's kind of strange because he was just a very minor, you know, character in the first film. He was an enjoyable character, awesome character, I loved him. But in this movie, there's a lot more development going on. By the end of the movie, Yondu becomes sort of like the most important character, like the character we all kind of want to see what's going to happen with him. He ends up evolving the most. He ends up, you know, redeeming himself. There's just, he's like, I would say, the best character in this entire film. He's the one that everyone sort of by the end is latching on to, and it's just, he's heartbreaking by the end. It's a great, I loved what they did with Yondu's character, and I love that Rocket the raccoon is kind of teaming up with Yondu, and it's just, it's a lot of good interactions. The stuff between Peter Quill and his father is good, but then it's by the end when the father's trying to convince Peter Quill of something about it just doesn't work. There's something that I don't buy about it. Maybe it's because I know the character of Peter Quill wouldn't go in for this right away, or maybe it's the fact that when they wrote the script, they had to have, or I don't even know if this was in the script, they probably put this in there later or however they did it, but basically Kurt Russell makes this big reveal, and it's just one of the dumbest things I've ever seen a villain do. He's a great villain, but it's just a really dumb thing that he says that felt like, okay, the reason he said this was because the screenplay needed him to say it, they needed to get that out of the way in order for Star-Lord to really turn against him, for there really to be a conflict between the two, and I just don't think it worked. When you're having a poignant scene between a father and a son, you probably shouldn't be making so many David Hasselhoff references. I mean, it's funny, but you gotta, there's a certain point where it's like, you need to just let this scene play out. The first one's just a little bit better, is that they let those emotions play out. They don't cut to a David Hasselhoff joke in the middle of what should be the most emotional scene in the movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 it's worth watching in theaters. It's definitely one of the better Marvel Cinematic Universe films to be made. It's not better than the first Galaxy, but I don't know, did anyone really expect it to be? It's exactly what you want it to be, and in fact, it's a little bit more than that. I will say that. So definitely go see it if you already weren't planning on it, which I why wouldn't you go see this? It's the beginning of the summer movie season. Go see the good movies then. This is a good movie. Please go see it. It's fun. It's colorful. Bring the kids. I mean, it's kind of a kid's... I don't know. There's some adult jokes in there. Really, you just have to see it. So, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.